Blind Alley by Eskia Mphahlele. What have I to do with thee? A house of sack is waiting yonder. Moroka there is full and calling. Come, my love, we'll seek our own. Moroka's waiting, calling yonder. We'll make our paradise, we two. Moroka's sacks are calling. We'll lose ourselves among the crowd. Moroka's beckoning, calling, waiting. And what have I to do with thee? So the tragic song of Moroka goes. Squalid sack shanties calling, squalid narrow streets repelling and calling. Some lose themselves here, others don't. Some lose their hates, loves. Others stick to their jaw and live among the flat shanties, the dirty streets, swarming with flies. Many revolt against these things, against their wives, their husbands, their parents. But Moroka continues to sprawl up the hill, made by the people in it, making the people in it. Ditsi came to put up his shanty soon after Moroka began. His friend, John Sieku, had lent him money when Ditsi came to Johannesburg from Bochum. Their fathers were friends and once roommates for several years at the Denver hostel. Take care of my son in that jungle city, Ditsi's father had written to the older Sieku when Ditsi first came to the city. I'm sure when the two boys get to know each other, they will help each other along. They got to know each other. They became friends. John, man of the world, of impulsive decisions and not so serious. Ditsi, just another man with violent convictions when he had any. But the older Sieku was not to know his friend's son long, for within a fortnight of Ditsi's arrival, the old man died. I don't know how I shall ever repay you, said Ditsi to his new companion. John had kept quiet. Many a time he felt secretly that he had done this for Ditsi's wife, whom he found an admirable person more than he would like to admit. Ditsi had brought his wife and 2 children with him. A pretty woman of about 30, with big dark eyes, thick lips, and of medium build. She took a factory job as a mechanist, and Ditsi worked in a department store. He was happy with Tamela, his wife, and their children. John Sieku, not married himself, visited the Marquez shelter often. He was treated as one of the family, being amiable and not wanting to remind them of their debt. Our struggle is a hard one. We must not let our people down. You see, here in the tin and sack shanties, you and I have to continue to live in them. Your children and mine have to continue to cough in these leaky shanties. Winter is coming on. We cannot wait any longer. We must fight for decent houses. And so the man spoke on. He was speaking to a handful of men on an open place. They could not have numbered more than 10. This Sunday morning, Ditsi was passing on his way to John's. He stopped an old bearded man just crossing the street to join the audience. What meeting is this? He inquired of the grey head. Do you not know of the meeting? I should not ask, old father. Are you not of these parts? Yes, I am, old father. How long are you here? A month. Then you must be asleep, young man. What meeting is it, old father? The old man looked up into Ditsi's face with soft, glistening eyes. That is Fube, the crackling voice said, evasively. Who is Fube? You do not know him. He's a brave young man. Says his mind, and the devil take the hindmost. Looks a man straight in the face and does not blink. That's the man for me. But what are they here for? Ditsi felt impatient. You do not know him. You have not seen anything yet, young man. Ditsi sighed. We want houses, as if to reply to the sigh. That's what we are here for. And the old man made to cross the street to demonstrate that he was one of the we. Ditsi took his head and proceeded on his way. Fube's voice rang out in the same strain. Ditsi gradually began to understand things. He got to know Moroka, her bitterness, her pains, her frustration, and her lust for life. This understanding brought him in close association with Fube and all the others who felt and thought as he did. He attended all Fube's meetings because Fube's cause, Moroka's cause, was his, and he gave to it all he was capable of. Ditsi often felt like a man who is carried on the crest of a wave, so necessary, if not altogether inevitable. Tamela was just putting the children to bed when she had a knock at the door. Her heart missed a beat or two. "Who's there?" "Nkomo." "Who's Nkomo?" "You do not know me then?" "No." "Open, then you will see and know me." "I cannot if I do not know you." "I must come in. I bring you news about your husband." "Who's my husband?" A sinister chuckle from outside. "Oh, I see. Your man is Makwe." Tamela's imagination ran wild, even in those few seconds before she opened the door. A big man with broad shoulders and a big stomach entered, a big club in his hand. He was panting fast from a weak heart. His eyes were red fire and looked savage. He sat down. "You are Mother Makwe." He did not wait for an answer. "Your husband is in great danger. He is playing with fire, taunting the lion in its den. Sit down, good woman." Tamela sat on the edge of a chair, trying to avoid the focus of those terrible bulging balls of fire. "I've only come to ask you as a good woman who doesn't want any dust to advise Makwe. He is one of those rebels who fly above the heads of those the people chose as fathers of Moroka. I must answer for the actions of everybody here. I know what the people want. If he continues to attend these rebel meetings and mislead the people, the wolves will eat him. This house will be burnt down, and you may be disgraced anywhere in Moroka by men who know their work. The people do not pay their dues to me anymore. They are being told we are cheats. Tell him to be careful. Tell him that, good woman. Tell him that." The poor woman had nothing to say. Nkomo was satisfied with the effect of his words. She was clearly alarmed. Every time Tamela turned in her blankets, that fearful night, she seemed to see big red bulging balls of fire, a big stomach, and in the dark, a woman crying, disgraced by men who know their work. She saw Ditsi lying there, clawed by the deadly paws of a monster of no name, no shape, a monster that was Moroka, the haunting figure of a tall man. Then his husky, pitiless voice, "Tell him that, good woman. Tell him that. Tell him." She uncovered her head and stared at the candle, which seemed to be burning into an eternal night. "I think it is all rubbish," John said. "What is?" Ditsi asked. "All these meetings, they take us nowhere. Get a good house, you still need many more things." John Sieku was in an unusually serious mood. "But you never really get a good house," said Ditsi. "Put a man in a filthy place like this, you've condemned his soul to filth. I'm thinking of your safety, yours and Tamela's and the children's. After it all, who thanks you? This place is brutal. There is always something lurking in the shadows, here, ready to strike and destroy." Tamela looked up at John. Ditsi looked at both of them. He wanted to tell them all that he thought and felt. He felt deeply. He could not tell them that he was caught in a stream of fire that he felt he could not stand outside it, outside the scalding stream, that he was going to continue in his defiance of the elected upper dogs of Moroka who spat venom in the path of those like him. He looked at his wife. He was horrified by what he saw on Tamela's face. The placid, smooth face was convulsed with some repelling feeling that she could not conceal, something like a mixture of pain and bitter reproach. Poor woman, Ditsi thought, looking away from her. You have lived a comparatively quiet life, born at a mission station. No creases in your life until now. Perhaps no bitter tears. Frightened little woman, he said aloud, going to embrace her. She stiffened, seeming to pull away. Ditsi released his hold. Ditsi realized the break had come. The break he had always feared. He knew that he could not take it. At times, he almost burst into tears. He took the children away to his parents. It was quite plain to Tamila's simple mind. She had loved Ditsi with the warmest affection a man can hope for. She looked up to him as the main pillar of her security. Now that sense of security was shaky, if not lost. Every night now, there were group meetings. More and more people flocked to these meetings. Their leaders spoke their language. It was a matter of shelter for flesh and blood. Ditsi found Tamila gone one night when he came back from one of these meetings. Her clothing was not there. Impulsively, he dashed out of the house into the thick night. He did not know where he was going, nor did he care. His one thought was to find Tamila. He moved on and on into the night, a buzzing, brutal night, charged with the air of rebellion, while Moroka screamed away in pain, sloth, and sordidness. He must have been walking for more than 4 hours. He sat down, feeling only now his heavy limbs. Then he heard someone cough. Surely he was intimately familiar with that cough, he thought. Or was it an illusion? He stood up. By the gods! This is John's house. It was right in front of him. By degrees, its peculiar shape registered in his mind in the dim light of an autumn dawn. He crossed over to reassure himself. They were lying beside the wall, 2 people gazing into each other's eyes. Then one of them struck a match, evidently to light a cigarette. He saw her face. What fate brought him here to see what he saw now? By the gods, could this be true? He gulped down a lump in the throat and turned his back to them, a broken man. The day came. Thousands of people marched through the streets of Moroka. The settlement was one seething mass of blind hate, blind anger, frustration. Ditsi was there, and yet not there. Nagging thoughts were miling inside him about John, about Tamila. He thought of the ironic twist in his affairs, wanting a decent house with no home to house. Ignorant fool. They were nearing the location office when one of the elected men was pounced upon. Yells, sticks cracking in the air, a group of victim supporters dashing and throwing themselves upon the masses. Screams and yells, a mad riot. A police van swerving round the corner. 3 policemen jumping out, charging with revolvers in hand. Madness at the sight of pistols. Ditsi rushing to the front ranks in mad, almost unconscious determination. His club falling on the skull of the policeman with an ominous crack. Another blow. Policemen in the dust. Ditsi's savage foot on the face. Death. White death looking at him through glazed eyes. Mad stampeding. All in a few moments. 2 policemen killed. Moroka gave a shattering cry which shot up, hung in the misty air, and seemed to fall into groaning and wailing fragments. He felt terrible joy after it all, and then he felt a little dizzy. He left the yelling crowd with a few other men. He had never drunk heavily. This day, he was going to get drunk by the spirit. And he did. He boarded a bus. Again, he didn't care where he was going, just to get away. Away from, he didn't even care from what. Within a few minutes, Ditsi found himself on Mansfield Station. 2 policemen killed. 2 what? 2 policemen, I say, killed on the spot. By whom? The people. You should have seen their mad fury. Black man doesn't want to see a revolver. Shocking. Fearful, Man dies today, man hangs tomorrow. Simply like that. He had all this faintly, as if the voices came from a deep dungeon, so hollow, ridiculously hollow. He chuckled, really tickled. He was standing on the platform, gazing at the railway line. A green electric engine was coming from the south side. It made a thin siren sound, ridiculously thin and sharp, a big green rumbling engine producing a sound like that of a cycle hooter. And as it rumbled past, Ditsi laughed aloud, really tickled. He went under the bridge to the other end. They were there, John and Tamila, his wife. He came and stood close to them. They were clearly embarrassed. "Oh, waking from your beautiful dreams, eh? You too?" He swayed unsteadily drunk. Tamila was quiet. "What do you mean, Ditsi? Tell me, how did the procession go?" "You want to know, eh? You two clever birds. Caught in your nest, eh? Tamila, my wife, you love him, eh? Clever boy, not slow and stupid like me, eh?" He belched. Tamila was looking at him all the time. "When is this bloody train coming? Should a man help a woman, another man's woman, lose all trust and faith in her man? I mean, should he or should he not? No, I've got nothing to do with you." He pointed at John. "Now you, Tamila, look at me. Look at John. Today, this day. Now tell us whom you want to have, Tamila." Tamila was clearly in a difficulty. She showed it. Come, Tamila. Now. Just now. I mean it. Say it." Ditsi swayed one way and another. Then she took a step forward, head bent, and looked straight into Ditsi's eyes, almost throwing herself onto him. She laid her head on his chest and cried bitterly. John's outer crust cracked, and he felt wounded at the sight of the drama. The pain of wounded pride slowly became the pain of regret as he remembered Ditsi's word of a few moments before. He had summed up John's betrayal very well, but he had put the choice to his wife. As he left the station, however, he had mixed feelings about this episode of his life. Ditsi lifted her head up so that their eyes met. They understood. Tamila wanted to lead him to the steps of the bridge, but he stood still, exerting his willpower to keep himself steady. "Are you coming back, Tamila?" She nodded. "Not just because I'm drunk and you want a soul to rescue." She shook her head. "It has not been easy for me all these weeks, Ditsi." Then she burst into sobs. They understood. He felt awkward, and he made no effort to comfort her. He only knew that she was in his arms now. "I shall never forget this in all my life," she said. There was profound peace inside him. "There he is. This is the man." Ditsi turned round to see a black man with huge shoulders and a big stomach pointing an ominous finger at him, leading a white constable towards him. Tamila saw him and recognized him. The big man. Fear gripped her again. Ditsi's mind was becoming clearer. He remembered it all. Policeman killed. Hanging or a life sentence. The ghastliness of it all. He surrendered, looking at Tamila for the last time as a man free to move among his people. She understood, and it hurt too much to allow any tears.